Okay, here we go. Rich here from PT Graduate again. Great to bring you another interview today with Mr. Alex Flint from, as you can see, Body Talk. Thanks for being here, Alex. Great to see you.
Pleasure. Great to be on with you, Richard.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, Alex, I know we've only met once, so I don't know you very, very well, but you were definitely on the must-haves list to catch up for lots of reasons. And obviously, as I said, you're working at Body Talk, which is your business, right?
Yep.
And that's in Newmarket?
Yeah, Newmarket in Auckland.
Yep, cool. And so how long's Body Talk been going?
Body Talk as a concept is about 6.5 years old now. The gym, as a physical gym, is just coming into its 6th year shortly, actually. So about five and a bit years in to actually having a physical premises. So it was more so a concept to start with, and we had training going on all over the place, and then sort of grew from a very, very small box into a bigger gym as we went along. So about 5 or 6 years.
Cool, excellent. And Newmarket's quite a competitive space in terms of the number of gyms and options there are for people out there. Excuse me. There's a Les Mills there, and there's a number of other boutique-y type places, big, small, and all sorts of options. I guess choice is important, but what is it that you do at Body Talk that sort of sets you apart, or what is it that brings your clientele through your door?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and I think it's a really important point to acknowledge in any area of the fitness industry. Like, it is a crowded space now, and there's more and more people getting into the industry all the time. With the digital world the way it is, we get more and more exposure to such a huge range of training types and peoples and gyms, etc. So what I did early on was be really, really aware of who our target market was, and then basically put together our method, which doesn't really mean that we have any clear competitors, because we have our own space. We own our own space, which is specifically for our target market. So I guess the thing that sets us aside is we're a group training facility. That doesn't necessarily set us aside, because there's plenty of those. But we actively help people over the age of 40 get back in really good shape and then maintain that shape for the rest of their lives. So we have everyone from ex-professional sports people all the way through to mums and dads, retirees that want to get themselves back into health and fitness, and from any starting point. And then our real big job is to try and make that something which is fun, inviting, and then they want to keep it as a lifestyle long term.
Brilliant. And you kind of answered my next question, because I was going to say, so what is that market? So that's good. You've given me that already. I guess those are the people who, if they haven't necessarily been in a regime of exercising, they've probably spent the years from 30 to 40 realizing that their body's slowing down, that it's not going to stay the same shape as it was when they were in their 20s. And they make that decision to go, okay, I need to do something different. And that's obviously the decision that they're going to make some change. And you're the people, or your environment is obviously one that's set up to help them start that journey, I suppose. You use a reasonable amount of science and measurements as well. And we'll get onto Match Fit, but you make sure that there's some really good understanding in terms of their metabolic age and where their body's actually at before they start, don't you? So that there's some really good measurements along the way, and they can see the progress, not just visually, but sort of on the numbers as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important, just because I guess one of the things that I experienced myself as I got older, because I've always been very enthusiastic about sport and exercise and training, and I'm always sort of experimenting on myself, I guess. Earlier on, it was hard for me to, I guess, empathize with, people that were potentially older than me and what they were going through. The messages and the things that they were telling me kind of didn't match up with what I was experiencing myself. So it was something which I guess probably is a normal thing that happens in the fitness industry. As you age, your theories and your mindset changes a little bit as well. So what I really noticed is that, what was once a pretty easy thing to figure out, is we had fairly responsive bodies, and more so we didn't have a lot of stress outside of, our gym life going on. So there wasn't all these exterior impacts that were really having a major, I guess, putting a lot of pressure on our bodies in all sorts of ways. So this, this stress, if you want to call it that as an overarching theme, is really different as we get older. So that's everything from kids to potentially, career, to our health potentially hasn't been where it should be for a while. A lot of people that will come to see us are people that they might not have done anything for 5-10 years because they're in that period of time where family and careers become number one.
Yeah.
And once upon a time, they may have had a fit body, or, they might have been in a really good space. And now they're at a stage where they want to get that back. They've got time, income, those types of things. But it's just not the same as it used to be. You can't just launch yourself in like you could when you were 25, 30 and expect the same resilience in your body to be able to just train hard from day one.
Yeah.
So that's how we've put together what we've put together. And we've been very clear on almost like boundaries. So we don't let people jump ahead of their health in terms of trying to get a result. So their health comes first, and then we have a whole lot of parameters and markers, which mean that we kind of almost hold people back. So it's almost like I like to think we're a bit of a disruptor to the industry in terms of what we're doing is going against the grain. So we're not your 6 or your 12 or your whatever you'd like to call it, challenge straight up. Come in with nothing and get straight into these challenges. We expect people to take a long period of time and get their health sorted first. So number one, it's enjoyable, and two, it's sustainable. And that's for both the fact that we want people to have a result that lasts forever, and unless they get their health first, when their health sorted first when they're older, that's not going to happen. But also, it's from our point of view, it's good as well, because it means that we've got long-term clients who are going to stick around because they really see the benefits, and they're not in a hurry to get the results. They understand that yes, while they might be wanting a result tomorrow, do they want to keep that result forever?
Yeah, I like it. There's that age-old saying, isn't it? You don't lose weight to be healthy. You have to be healthy to lose weight.
Yeah,
and I think that sounds like your ethos. It's helping people understand how the body works, put it into that state of health first, and then it will respond to all of the inputs that they get from turning up and doing the gym work as well.
Yeah, really. I mean, we like to say that it's a case of the byproduct of leading these good habits is a great body and great health. So rather than focusing on weight loss or muscle gain or fitness, those things come from leading the right lifestyle, which starts with your health first. So our parameters that we use are quite wide ranging, but we use a couple of different scans. We use a lot of VO2 max testing. We've got a metabolic cart, so we can put people on breathing devices, see what their metabolism's like to start with. And all that together just gives a great base of information, so we can really look at where someone's starting point is. And then I've found myself, like, I've always been someone, I've struggled with the fitness industry a little bit in that we don't have the same access to black and white results as, say, a doctor. You go to a doctor, get a blood test, and here's where you are, like these are blood test results. Whereas in the fitness industry, it's just, I mean, we're not medical professionals, but also it's just difficult for us to have the same level of, I guess, intricate diagnosis. So I've done the best I can with what's available in the fitness industry to give people, a clear guideline to where they're starting it, and then we can work towards improving it, which is great for motivation as well.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So some interesting measurement tools there. So you talked about some of the people that you work with, and one of the things you mentioned was professional sports people. Which ties in nicely with my next question, which is obviously about Match Fit, which people listen to this may recognize you from TV3's program that took all of the a bunch of old All Blacks who are in their sort of 40s and 50s and beyond, and got them into a better shape and also sort of ready to play a proper game as well, which was really, I enjoyed watching that series. It was great to see them and listen to their stories as well, because they all had something different to bring, from a mental health point of view, or some of the challenges that life after rugby has brought. If that's something that those are the people that you specialize in, was it a natural conclusion that they came to you, the people that made the show came to you and sort of thought, you're the perfect man for the job? Is that how it worked, or how did they find you?
Yeah, that definitely had something to do with it. Like I'm a big believer in, I think early on in the fitness industry, it's hard to have a real specialism, because when you get in, you've just got to get started, get your wheels turning, and really you've got to focus on great customer service, being personable, having a great level of education and knowledge, and then wanting to help people. And then slowly, as you've put your roots down, you can start to perhaps specialize a little bit more. That's just my personal belief.
Yeah.
But once you're in a position where you can do that, where you really can start to specialize, because if you're doing it as a full-time career, you've got the finance behind you to support yourself, and then you can go down the track where you want to go to. I think it's really important that you try and you sort of own that space as much as you can. So what you try and do is you become almost like a thought leader, or the person of influence that's in that space.
Right.
So, I very much pitch myself as, I try and put myself out there as someone that's, over 40 and, trying to lead the lifestyle and stay that myself. And then all of the information that I give out is directly talking to that target market.
Sure,
So yeah,
sure.
that definitely had a big reason on why they chose Body Talk as well, because our gym is full of success stories of people in that age. And prior to that as well, the producers of the show knew I had a background in sports training with UFC and rugby players and stuff like that. So I guess I had that as well, which probably just gave me enough of a authority, I guess. Yeah.
I guess that leads us nicely into me asking what I should have asked at the beginning. So what happened at the beginning? How did you get to the point where we started with Body Talk? How did you get into the industry?
It's been a very long romance in the fitness industry. So my parents I'm Australian originally, and
yeah, I gathered that. Yeah,
is the twang still there?
Yeah.
My parents had regional New South Wales licenses that used to work differently, of Les Mills aerobics classes in country Australia, country New South Wales.
Right.
So a long time ago, you sort of had almost like franchise rights to an area. So I grew up around aerobics classes in halls, in bowling clubs, in RSA clubs, all that sort of thing. And in the 80s and 90s, over 100 people in an aerobics class. So,
wow.
Yeah, and then so from there, my parents got into opening a gym, and I was probably 10 or 11 at the time. By the time I was about 14, I had every single muscle and fitness magazine available, because I was just mad into it.
Yeah.
And my parents, there was a few people that came to the gym that were into weight training, and there was one guy who was a young lawyer, and he saw that I was right into it, because I used to be training all the time myself, and asked me if I'd train him. And I didn't even know what personal training was back then. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so I wrote him out all his programs and put him through them, and he loved it. And so it sort of was a succession from there. And I did PE and sports science at uni. Always sort of worked in a gym on the side. And then I actually went to the UK and was working as a PE teacher in a school over there and coaching rugby mostly. And then once I moved to New Zealand, that's when things really started to take off for me. So I was lucky enough, once I got over here, I started writing education programs for the fitness industry for they're now New Zealand Institute of Health and Fitness, but they were the company originally was NetFit, and NZIFF bought them out.
Right.
So I used to write a few programs for them and be a lecturer. And then through that, just the way that New Zealand is, I started training fighters, and from that I got into training UFC fighters. So I was that's kind of where everything really kicked off for me. So I was he's now retired, Mark Hunt. So when he was sort of top of the tree in the UFC, he got up to, I think he started, he was unranked, and I was with him right the way through till he got to number 3 in the world. We got a world title shot, but unfortunately missed that one. But what happened was, basically during that time, I started to really see the power of group training, because I was an Olympic weightlifter myself, always training groups, even though incredibly technical sport, no mirrors, one coach, a whole ton of us working together, really technical. And then the same with the UFC. So Mark was the only guy that was fighting, but we used to have a group of sometimes 15, 20 of us all training with him. You know, we'd pick people that were strong, some that were fit, some that were good fighters, and we'd put a camp together. And then, you know, some of us would go away for the fight, you know, camp down overseas somewhere for a month. And what we saw is, what I was noticing is everyone was in great shape. Even though there was one guy going into the ring, or, you know, when I was lifting, it was one person on the platform at a time, but everyone brought each other up together. So I had a good mate who was a very good cricketer, indoor cricketer, and he was training a lot of cricket players, Auckland and Black Caps and so forth. And we got together and said, how about we have a go at group training for everyday people, using these same dynamics of the teamwork environment, because you see it in everything else. And at that time, there was no group training. There was aerobic classes. There was no group training. So Matt Henderson and myself got together and just made a start, and that's how Body Talk was born. And and that's basically how it all got together.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great backstory. Awesome. That's probably one of the best I've heard. Interesting pathway. So going back to Match Fit, what I mean, obviously the stuff you see on TV is just a snapshot of probably what you were doing working days, but was that a serious commitment for you? If you had the gym and you then were doing the filming as well, how did you make it all work?
Yeah, I actually was training for I still compete in powerlifting as well.
Okay.
I was training for the nationals in powerlifting at the same time as well.
You like a full plate.
I couldn't wait for Christmas. I was like right on the edge of what was physically possible. So we had the gym going. Very lucky. I've got very good staff, very, very good head coach, and a number of supporting coaches. So they took up a lot of the slack for me. We had, you know, the gym is built on systems, so nothing is day-by-day coaching. Everyone's on program systems that last a month at a time. We have regular check-ins, so it works like clockwork. I mean, we're all, I wouldn't say clockwork, it's, you know, pretty good, but we're always looking to improve things. And so as much as I could, I stayed doing a fair bit of the training where I could, because I love to still have my feet on the floor in the training room. But the match fit commitment was pretty big. So I was that was probably somewhere from, you know, a lot of the players actually jumped into the group training that we had. So there was probably 10, 15 hours of filming a week plus the training. But I was able to, a lot of that was done sort of during normal training time. So I mean, but to be fair, it was an absolute honor. Like I would have done twice as much, you know, to be able to train those guys. So it wasn't something that I felt was hard work. You know, it was one of those, loved it. So
in your element.
And
they looks like they got a lot out of it as well. I mean, obviously they shifted some weight, and you know, Graham Henry was sort of leading from the front, and obviously more senior than them. But it wasn't just about making a TV show, was it? It was pretty significant for some of those guys in terms of what you know, some mindsets changed, perhaps. By the looks.
It was. To be honest, nobody was ready, including the TV production company. Who, you know, I've got a lot of friends in there now just from spending time with them. No one was ready for the impact that it was going to have. I think obviously it, the enormity of the widespread of people that got that message and you know, felt like they could almost liken themselves somehow to these guys was huge right across New Zealand. And it came at a good time too, right? You know, like we were in and out of lockdown. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. And here's these great stories of these guys who, you know, the guys that were in the show, just absolutely awesome fellas, really are. And they, you know, they all had playing history together, so the banter was there straight away. And on day one, I actually didn't know, like they did it on purpose. You know, they held as much information back as possible about who was going to be there, and that was, so, you know, there was a true element of surprise. So I'm sitting in the room with all my equipment, you know, ready to do my assessments, and first person to walk in is Buck Shelford. I'd never met him before in my life. I was like, wow. And then second person to walk in was Graham Henry, and I was like, oh my goodness. I'm kind of like the third wheel.
So you literally didn't know who would be walking through that door. You just knew you were some rugby players, or?
Yeah, and I knew that. I mean, I knew there was profile in everyone. I knew they had big coaches and that's, but And so that was pretty special, to be honest.
Yeah.
A little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And but they were genuinely just really, really good guys, and they took me under their wing. And then as you saw in the show, I'd sort of just got on with it. I thought, well, I'm just going to be, that was one of the things that I talked about with them on the show. I'm not an actor. I don't know how good I'll be on TV. And they said, we just want you to be yourself. So
brilliant.
I just got on with what I would normally do. And after the first show, so when everyone had to bear all and get on the scanner for TV, in retrospect, I didn't really think about it, but that was very confronting for a lot of those guys. They were top of the tree, considered the elite of the elite of New Zealand sport, and then to show where they were now, is a pretty hard thing to do. And to be honest, I didn't really think about the TV side of it, because usually a one-on-one like that is something that you do, and under the safety of no one sees. But Graham Henry was the first guy on the scales, and after he did that and talking about it with others, they said that was probably just an innate thing. He realised, that if he did it first, everyone would do it. And just like you said, leaders lead, and that's how it kicked on.
Yes.
So they were there was a lot of those guys in pretty grave shape to start with. There was one guy in particular who was really worried he was going to have a heart attack.
Shit.
So he went through extra medicals, and I had a fair few questions on that, like people commenting and saying, you shouldn't be pushing these guys so hard. But again, you only see what you see on TV.
Exactly.
Nothing like what actually went on. I was so worried that I was going to injure one of them. So we started so slowly and gently. As time went on.
So you brought that same ethos from body talk straight into the program without changing anything. You start slow, build it gradually. Because that's what they needed, didn't they? I mean, they had that. Was it a yo-yo that they started off with?
Bronco.
No, Bronco.
Yeah.
And that was a real eye opener, because you could see who still had the wheels and who really was struggling. And as a being in the industry and kind of watching them going, I was worried that there may be a couple of ambulance calls, because it was a real eye opener as to where they were at. And even some of those guys had only been playing more, in the last kind of World Cup or previous World Cup, and obviously some prior. So,
well, Frank Bunce, when he put his boots on, for the first time we had to wear boots, the sole fell out of it, and he said, "Last time I put this on was 20 years ago."
Oh, bloody! Same boots. Oh my God! You didn't go and get a fresh pair. Yeah, and it was good. It was good TV, and I think, as you say, it made them helped wider New Zealand kind of relate, and as confronting as that shirt off initial screening may have been, again, it makes them even more relatable, because your average Kiwi can probably go, oh my goodness, that's probably me in the mirror as well. And if I just do a few things and follow some of the advice, then and get some support from somebody like yourself, that could make a difference between an early grave and a long happy life, with great grandkids or whatever it may be. So it was pretty powerful message.
Yeah, I think the thing is that with the age group, sort of 40 plus, 40s and 50s, there's some pretty powerful reasons why you want to get yourself through the next 20 odd years of your life. You've worked hard, you potentially finally have got a future financially, you've got kids and grandkids, and it's really great. Like, it's something that's easy to tap into to get people a strong sense of purpose and vision as to why. The other thing as well is, and like you said, it sort of brought the ethos across, is, I mean, I had no doubt that these guys are all athletes, and I've worked with ex-athletes before, and what they're capable of. But it doesn't matter if we're talking about a non-athlete or not. The biggest thing is you just want your energy back, and you just want confidence in yourself again. So that's what doing the style of start that we do gives. Like, you start to feel better again. You start to have confidence in your body, and then everything works on top of that. And actually, you don't feel exhausted from all this super hard training to start with. You actually feel like it's giving you you can come back to the gym every day and do a bit more, and step by step, you're really getting into it.
Yeah, it's really powerful stuff. And it must have been a really good experience for you. And I guess if more of those things come along, you'd put your hand up again to do something similar or the same, Match Fit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Match Fit Part 2, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, you know, I'm careful about what I say yes to now.
Right.
Absolutely, definitely, if it's if it's my target market, I'd be more than happy to,
Yeah.
jump in.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I don't consider myself a specialist in, I just, it's sometimes what you say no to is more important than what you say yes to.
I absolutely agree. I think you're absolutely right there. And it's important, like you said at the beginning, it is to stick to your knitting, you know, to be the thought leader for your niche. And the more you do that, the more it becomes, you know, ingrained and part of the way you do things. And so that's kind of your marketing message as well, isn't it? Because you're always on that same thread in terms of what you're talking about, and you know, people may ask for your opinion on that sort of thing. And so, you know, you become even more well known in that space rather than trying to do, you know, too many things for too many people. It's a smart business model as well. So
yeah, I would say that one of the things that I've learnt more so in the last few years than you know, just trying to figure things out early on is really talk to one person. Just talk to one person, because, you know, with the ability to target market now, you can scattergun and just be very, very bland out there. But if you talk to one person, solve their problems, you know, talk to their hot buttons, to their points of pain, and you solve their problems, you know, that's how you slowly become an expert to that person. So once you figure out who your avatar is that you want to work with, then, you know, speak specifically to them. And it doesn't mean you're not going to get people outside of that space, because, for example, we have, you know, the majority of our people, the average age of someone that comes to Body Talks 47.
Yep.
They've got 2 kids, either business owner or, you know, reasonably well income.
Yeah.
But we also get their kids. We also get their relatives. Okay. We get their mates who might not quite be, you know, exactly the same avatar. So those people are still on the periphery anyway, because if you're good at what you do, people will recommend, you know, but still you've just got to, I think it's a really important point that you have the courage just to talk to the person that you want to work with most. You know, who's your favorite person? Think of your favorite client. What is it about them? What's their pain points? What are all the things that, you know, they need fixing, and talk to, you know, help that person out.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautifully put together. I think that's probably the best marketing advice that anyone listening to this can probably take. That's fantastic. So is there anything I haven't asked that is worth adding in there, Alex?
Just in terms of what sort of advice for people watching. Yeah. I think the thing is, the biggest thing that I would say about, I've lived obviously in 3 countries. One of the biggest things that I think is a little bit to the detriment, and I have no idea why it's the case, is having been New Zealand as my 3rd country, it seems that trainers undervalue continuing education over here.
Right.
Now, that's a big sweeping statement, but compared to what I've seen in the UK and in Australia, there's a lot more hunger to continually develop, learn, become better at your craft. And it's something that I think is, it's been something that I've done my whole life, is I've never sat on my laurels and thought I know enough. I've obviously picked, you know, some course I've gone on, probably, you know, it was a mistake. But really, when I look back now at where I'm at, it's because of everything that I've done along the way. And none of it was just try and, I guess, pinch stuff off what is now social media, you know, or YouTube. I've always actively sought out professionals in their field, you know, had a look at who they are. If they're good at what they do and they've proven themselves, then I've gone and, you know, paid to learn from them. And I think that is super important. You know, don't overwhelm yourself with too much, because there's so much out there. But you know, once you're clear on who you want to help out, then go and get some expert help from people that are already in that space and are doing well, because it is just so important. And one of the biggest reasons for that I've found is it's not necessarily the knowledge that you're getting from them. Of course it is, but it's actually, I guess, a lot more is online and digital now. But, you know, because of the way that, you know, we're locked down in terms of country to country now. But if you can go and network with people like yourself, you know, that are, they're motivated, they're enthusiastic, you know, it's hard to find other people like that when you're the instructor or the leader in your space. You know, you're the guy or the girl giving the energy, and it's sort of quite often can be quite lonely.
Yep.
So if you have the opportunity to network with others, I tell you what, every time I come away, even now, you know, like I come away from a course and I've got a spring in my step again, because just being around other people that are enthusiastic and share the same, you know, views on life, and it gives you a spring in your step. So yeah, continuing education, being clear on who it is that, you know, you want to help, so that your education is relevant, and then being aware that if you can get around events where there's other people who are in that space, because it's, you know, there's plenty of room for all of us out there, and having a network of people that are, you know, motivated like yourself actually does great things for your own motivation and
yeah. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's a fantastic, nice summing up of everything there beautifully. Thanks, Alex. Well, I think that's, I haven't actually been keeping track of time, so I'm assuming we're good, but it feels like a natural conclusion. So thanks so much for your time. There's some absolute pearls of wisdom there. So I hope that people take some real time to consider what you said, and to reflect on where they're at and whether that can help them in their pursuit of following their career. So again, thanks for your time. I know you're a busy man, so appreciate it hugely, and look forward to catching up with you another time maybe.
Cheers, Richard. Lovely to talk.
Thanks. See ya.